Biden extends the pause on student loan repayments until end of August as furious Megyn Kelly asks, "Why should I be paying for these snot-nosed college kids?" Which, by the way, side note, this is still basically the best time to try to pay down your student loans because you're not paying interest. So if your goal is to get out of debt, work really hard to pay off your student loans. So let's get right into it. Former Fox News star turned conservative talk radio host Megyn Kelly blasted progressive rep AOC for advocating for student loan forgiveness, declaring that she does not want to pay for the college education of snot nosed kids. Kelly weighed in on the hot button issue Monday while interviewing the host of the popular right wing podcast Ruthless on her daily SiriusXM program, The Megyn Kelly Show. AOC, a Democrat representing parts Queens, New York, has been urging President Joe Biden to use executive action to cancel federal student loan debt for everyone. And here's the thing that people need to understand, right? Even if they were to do this, it is pointless because they are still giving out loans, right? It's basically like saying like, "Hey, we're going to get rid of all of the drugs on the street to prevent people from being able to use illicit drugs. But we are also going to give you drugs." Or a better example would be, we are going to stop, actually, no, we're going to basically get rid of all of the opioids in circulation right now. But we're also still giving out opioids for patients. Like it doesn't make any sense. So after Biden failed to address the issue of loan forgiveness in his State of the Union address last month, AOC urged borrowers to keep bullying the White House to wipe clean a large portion of the national 1.7 trillion student debt. And here's another thing that people need to understand about the student debt in terms of how the government views it. This student debt, in the eyes of the government, is an asset. They are literally using the student debt as a way to make recurring revenue on the people. Think about that for a second, okay? They make money from taxes, but they also make money from giving out loans and having people pay them on those loans. So this strategy seems to have worked. On Tuesday, Biden announced he is extending the federal moratorium on student loan repayments until August 31st. And Kelly's takedown of the second term Congresswoman, she called AOC a one trick pony who is willing to offer handouts to Americans as part of a strategy to save Democrats from a bloodbath during the midterm elections in November. Let's see. Oh, is there an audio?
We took out loans too, and then we paid those loans back. That why should these snot-nosed kids today? I'm sorry, the ones who really need it, they can get loans, right? But like you point out, a lot of these people are going to be these sort of college Columbia elite graduates who are going to spend their years in journalism trying to shame half of America for doing absolutely nothing wrong. Why should I be paying for their college education? I don't want to. We took out loans too, and
Okay. So Kelly then asked her guests whether they had someone pay for their college education. Ruthless co-host Comfortably Smug recounted how he worked as a bouncer at a college dive bar in New York City to cover his tuition at a state school, which he said was within his budget. And here's a big thing that a lot of people do not understand when it comes to picking the right college, right? The best way to avoid going into student loan debt is to find a college that is within your budget, within something that you can actually afford. If this means that you got to go to community college, then you got to go to community college because guess what? You will be saving tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on your education. Oh, by the way, after 2 years, you can pretty much transfer to almost any university. So everyone else in this country has always figured out a way to budget for their education, and again, it's progressivism masquerading as compassion, the conservative podcaster argued. As a handout to the wealthiest liberal coastal, it's like the liberal coastal elite embodied. Kelly, 51, then shared with her guests and listeners how, after her father died of a heart attack at age 45, her mother used his entire life insurance policy to pay for her children's college education. We weren't rich to begin with, said Kelly, who famously walked away from her NBC contract with a $69 million settlement after being ousted for defending blackface on air. So it's not like he had some big fat life insurance policy. Which, by the way, I mean, like, just saying, $69 million would be pretty nice to have. Just saying. So, speaking of her late father, Edward Kelly, who taught at the State University of New York at Albany until his death in 1985, Megyn said he had like the bare minimum life insurance for when you're in your 40s and a professor. Kelly said she and her two older siblings were forced to take out loans on top of the life insurance money to pay for their schooling, which honestly means that she went to a pretty expensive school. Kelly earned an undergraduate degree in political science from the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs at Syracuse University in 1992, followed by a law degree from Albany Law School in 1995. And this is probably where she ended up taking the loans for this law degree. So, do I think now that I would have been better if the federal government had stepped it? I'm guessing stopped it. It would have been nice, but I don't think the neighbors should have to pay for my college education. The former Fox News star went on to argue that the snot-nosed kids today can take out loans to attend top schools like Columbia University. There are people there are people are going to be elite graduates who are going to spend their years in journalism, blah 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 blah. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So AOC is a sponsor of the Student Debt Cancellation Act, which would forgive outstanding federal and private for all borrowers, both past and present. On Tuesday, she tweeted in response to the announcement that the White House plans to extend the pandemic pause on student loan repayments through August 31st. I think some folks read these extensions as savvy politics, but I don't think those folks understand the panic and disorder it causes people to get so close to these deadlines just to extend the uncertainty. It doesn't have the effect people think it does. We should cancel them. Roughly 43 million federal student loan borrowers have not been required to make payments for more than 2 years since the CARES Act was first signed into law under Donald Trump. Interest rates on student loans held by the government will also remain at zero. It was due to end on May 1st, but officials are seeking to give Americans a few more months of relief as the economy continues to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic and while the cost of consumer goods continue to climb to record highs. And Kelly was not the only one who has upbraided AOC in recent days. Chris Moss, the organizer behind the successful unionization of the first Amazon warehouse in the country, publicly called out the Congresswoman for backing out at the last minute from attending a pro labor rally in August. As he celebrated victory for unionizing his Staten Island warehouse, Smalls said that AOC doesn't deserve this moment. Da-da-da. Canceling student debt is one of the most powerful ways to address racial and economic equity issues. The student loan system mirrors many of the inequalities that plague American society and widens the racial wealth gap, the lawmakers wrote. Student debt cancellation must be one of the key actions in your comprehensive approach to advance equity as our nation works to rebuild a stronger and more equitable economy and nearly 8 million jobs, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So let's look at these comments. Why should anyone pay for the loans other than those who took the loans? I paid mine back for crying out loud. And here's the thing that you gotta think about as well, right? I would have to agree. Because you gotta view it like this. You made the decision where you signed on a piece of paper that you are going to pay back this money that you were given. That being said, a lot of these colleges, a lot of these people, these guidance counselors, all that kind of stuff, right? Basically convince a lot of students to get these student loans and think that's like the only way to end up going to school because one, they probably make a cut from it, but also it's like they really need to definitely change the way that student loans is given to students, and really the better way to really do it, right, is not to give out loans, but basically saying like, hey, if you were to finish your education at this school, it will be for free, but we will take a percentage of the amount of money that you make for the first 5 years of your working career. I believe some colleges are actually doing that right now. Because in that path, right, they are actually incentivized and helping you basically graduate and also finding a job because they're going to get a kickback, probably of a sizable amount. At least that's one way to kind of like view it. That being said, it's just like the system is so like screwy, so messed up. I mean, just think about how stupid it is that the government or these colleges are able to give out student loans worth six figures plus to people who have no job, no possible way of paying it back, but they can't give them like a loan for a business to start, right? Like they can't be approved for that. They can't be approved to buy a house. They can't be approved to buy a car without like any income because there's so many students that have zero income that are getting approved for $20,000 student loans for their first semester, $40,000 student loans for their first semester. Like it's crazy, right? You have no work history, you got no credit score, and you're able to get basically a 20 to 40 grand loan for your very first year or semester of a university or a college. It's absolutely insane. Let's see. Good. It will give me the chance to rack up a college tuition bill that I will forward to Joe. Can't wait to wave bye bye to AOC on crack in January. Megyn, you will never be back at Fox or any major network ever again. You will continue to broadcast from your makeshift home studio. You cross Trump, Ailes, and NBC. Talentless bottom feeder. Okay, shut up, MK. Not everyone is willing to get on their knees to make money like you, Megyn. The most ridiculous demand that comes out of her mouth, AOC accepted the terms when she got the student loans. So now she and all the far left liberal crybabies can pay their debts. Pay your own debt. Because, Megyn, not everyone wants to blow their way through school and into a career as a right wing propagandist like you. What about instead of forgiveness, we just make it more affordable? Still make people pay for their education, but make the cost make sense. Pandering alert. With Joe's new economy and the supposed lowest unemployment rate in history, everyone should be able to find a job and pay back their loans. Pretty interesting. Feel free to give your own thoughts about this. And, like, this is the thing, right? To me, it's more of a simple financial slash moral issue. The moral issue is like I signed on a piece of paper to get these student loans, so I should be paying it back because that is the right morally choice. Second, the financial option is like you had the choice to not go to that university that is costing this amount of money. You had the choice to go to a community college. You had the choice to go to a different school. You had the choice to just not go to college and simply just get a job. right? You had the choice, right? So you chose the worst financial choice that you could have, right? That being said, anyone can get out of debt if they like basically follow a very simple path of doing it. So if you want to learn how to get out of debt, go to 40inbox.com. But here's the thing, right? I mean, student loans should only be forgiven for those people who are physically incapable of ever paying the money back. So, for example, if you pass away, obviously you should not be paying student loans. Two, if you end up becoming like completely fully disabled in some form, you should not be paying any student loans because there's literally no possible way that you could end up doing that. Which, by the way, within the programs, there are literally certain statutes of basically where if you do become fully disabled and you have a note, you could have all of your student loans completely wiped away. Like that can happen, and it has happened, right? Or if you fell to a fraudulent loan scheme, that could get wiped out as well. So, something to really think about